but also higher in terms of micronutrient fortification. For instance, milk fortified with iron that's cheaper because you replace the milk fat with vegetable fats. And this is really, these are global products that can have really quite a massive impact because of the coverage and because the brand is known and so consumers accept them. Again, we'll have a whole separate session on this on Wednesday. And lastly, irrespective of fortification, as was called for by Ala Alwan this morning, developing foods with healthy nutrition profiles. We have developed a proprietary product development system called 60/40+. The plus means you have to meet a nutrition profile that qualifies as a healthy food, basically. And that 60% of the customers have to prefer the taste. We can't sell food that people don't like to eat and buy. And these, we will not advertise products to children unless they meet these healthy profile criteria. This has been the key to reformulation, too, and you can see here the figures for the reduction in trans fats, salt, and sugar over the last few years. So basically, conclusion, what should business be doing? Policy, advocacy, and two, building this into each stage of the value chain. We call this creating shared value, where you basically take a point of view that if we're going to be a successful business, you have to create value for consumers and for the public in order to create value for the company long term. And that's really the key to a long-term business, and why we can work together with WHO, work together with governments and others, because long-term, if you have a very long-term vision, you can both create better nutrition and make a better profit as a company.
Thank you. I have the sad announcement that two of our speakers have to leave, and that means that one of them will have to be under the hot seat. But if you'll briefly take a seat, and I'm going to walk around. There's no longer new. And there were groups that I asked for in the first analysis. And I think around here I had civil society organization, NGOs. Could you raise your hands again? Okay. Does any of you have a question that you'd like to ask? Okay. Next. We had university and faculty and students. Raise your hands. Your arms got so tired during the presentation. Is there anyone in that particular community who has a comment or a question? Yes. Okay. We have a valiant academic.
It's hard to categorize oneself, but anyway, I've worn different hats. But as an academic currently, Niels, I think there's a lot in the international community who think the U.S.-based strategy on biofuels currently is incorrect, and I noticed you are, whatever word, adamantly opposed to it. How do you as a company influence the politics in a place like the U.S.?
You need a microphone.
Is my mic on? Well, we speak out. I mean, our chairman has been very clear in our attitude toward this. We are a Swiss company, not a U.S. company, so how much they listen to us in Switzerland is another question, but we, about 25% of our business is in the U.S. We're the second biggest food company, so we make our point. How successful we are with the U.S., I'm not sure, but we welcome the U.S. companies and others to join us in this attitude.
That was academia. The next category was industry. We'll get back to academia. Who had their hands up for industry? Jeff, you didn't have your hand up because you weren't there then. Okay, industry, they've disappeared too. Or they've changed their spots. We have to recycle. We're back to civil society and NGOs. Any comments? We're back to academia. Okay, academia.
I'm just wondering, we've heard a lot of lectures this morning, and we've had a repetition of this analysis, which is neat, of the chaos and complete conflict. Why has it really taken us so long when actually, I mean, even in our primitive way, when we produced the Millennium Report 10 years ago, I mean, M.S. Swaminathan was saying, we're in terrible trouble on diversity. We put in the mega city issue, we put in the water issue, and the destruction of land. I mean, you know, we were, well, he's a brilliant guy, we were just amateurs. Why the devil have people been so stupid?
Okay. Shall I rephrase the question? Why the devil have people been so stupid? And who'd like to take that? Anyone here from academia? From economics? Or from industry? Okay. Do you want to answer, or we take that as rhetorical? Okay, where were we in our cycle? We had civil society and NGOs, we had academia, we had industry. Going once, going twice, so now it's open forum. And B. Rogers was sitting down with her hand up. If she stands up with her hand up, she'll get the microphone, if she can.
I don't really need a microphone, but I did think it was worth pointing out that one of the things that really struck me in these presentations is the fact that we tend to make assumptions about what is needed. And I think both Patrick and Marie talked about it with respect to the price crisis and the assumptions that these would be the universal negative effects, but in fact the picture was much more complex. And I heard from the Nestle presentation, similarly, we all assume biofuels must be a good thing because of the crisis in fuels. And I just would like to kind of underline that the message, at least one of the key messages I will take away from this, is the fact that we absolutely need data, information, before we go waltzing down any policy direction. And I just think that was a really important lesson.
Thank you. Good. We had a second category, as you remember when I began, which was who's from a country that thinks that their country is at risk of or has suffered from the global crisis. Could you raise your hands? Boy, people just disappear. Is anyone from a country that might be relevant in the eye of the storm interested in asking a question? Because it seems that everyone who has spoken has been from a developed country. Some from even England, which is more developed than others.
I think all this is interesting.
Closer to the microphone. No. To your mouth. Closer to your mouth.
Okay. The presentations are quite fascinating and interesting. My main worry is accessibility. When we are talking about food security for all, which means availability, accessibility, and usability. I come from Malawi, although I live in England. But looking at the presentations, my worry is how many of the Malawians, or rather people from African countries, would access the commodities we are talking about, especially the Nestle products. You just talked about cubes that almost every household can access a cube, which I think for Malawians is not a reality, because for them, a cube would be meaningless. They would rather go for something very meaningful for their welfare to satisfy hunger. And looking at the way, the nature of Malawian in respect to how much they earn, if you make the calculations, it's like $1 or under $1 per year. And if that is the case, how do you reconcile your production of Nestle products to improve the welfare of these people who are in dire malnutrition problems?